What's going on, everybody? I'm Sage, and I wanted to make a very quick video just going over and announcing some of the immediate changes that happened to Guardian Druid, especially since I just placed a video going over the talent shuffle that happened with Guardian and kind of my thoughts on it. And some of them were like, it's not the greatest, but it feels okay because they gave us access to Blood Frenzy, and they put a lot of the abilities we want around Blood Frenzy. However, now they've gave us a massive buff. So we're going to jump straight into it and just kind of go over the buffs and then some of the abilities that they've changed and altered for us as well, which just improve kind of the build that we were already initially going with even further. And so the big change is that they gave a 50% aura buff to the damage and healing done that modifies to the abilities Maul, Pulverize, Lunar Beam, Wisdom and Fury, Mangle, Thrash, Brambles, Architect's Angular, uh, and Swipe, which is ultimately the pretty much everything that Bear does, right? That's like all of our abilities for the most part across the board for Guardian Druid, and that's huge. Giving Bear such a big amplification over all their healing and damage for these abilities. Definitely is something that needed to happen, and just shows that even Blizzard thought that Bear was that far behind the majority of tanks, and this just kind of shoots Guardian Druid to be back into the pool of tanks and not be as down in the gutters as it kind of was, especially competing with damage wise as well as survivability. So the 50% aura buff to these damage abilities is massive for us because it increases a lot of the things that we're capable of doing. Snap aggro is a lot better now because you have competitive damage as well as like big AoE pulls and stuff, like you're doing decent damage, and single target where we were lacking significantly has been buffed up a good chunk just because of the immediate things that they've changed here, right? Like that's just going to increase that damage. Um, but it wasn't just the 50% to these specific abilities that they changed that makes this build even stronger. So one of the things that they changed for this build specifically is Soliciting Moonlight, which we take right down here. It's 2 points. Previously, we talked about it like it was 2 points for 4% DR. Now it's 2 points for 10% DR, which is way better, especially since you're going to have Twin Moons, Twin Moonfire, which allows you to spread this very quickly, and then you have Galactic Guardian, which is going to do it for you for free. And every time Galactic Guardian procs, obviously it's shooting out those two Moonfires out on targets, which means you pretty much are going to just have a 10% DR across the entire uh, pack that you're fighting, especially on pull. You're going to taunt and then spread your Moonfires out very quickly, and then go into your rotation, which is a great way to you know give some of that tankiness back to Guardian, as well as we're already going to be doing it for damage. And then another thing that they changed is going to be Rage is a Sleeper. This was a big thing that I kind of had an issue with, especially going on this side, is people were picking it even when it was just its previous form, and now they've actually changed it back to its original form, which is it unleashes the Rage of Ursoc for 10 seconds, preventing 25% of all damage you take, increasing your damage done by 15%, granting you 25% leech, and reflecting X amount of damage back at your attackers. This makes it so much better of just a cooldown, to place. Especially it's 1 minute now. It was 1.5 minutes. Now it's 1 minute, and you're going to get extra damage from it. You're going to get tankiness from it. You're going to get survivability from it, and it's just all around. It's a great, you know, it's a great point, especially being capstone at the bottom of this side of the tree. It's a phenomenal thing to add. It gives bears a lot more just kit, because of the fact it gives us sustained and damage. So great change, reverting Rage's Sleeper back to its original form, and then also just increasing our DR from Soliciting Moonlight, because it felt awkward when we were trying to do different kinds of builds, and like you'd have to take Soliciting Moonlight in order to get Blood Frenzy, but then you wouldn't take these over here because you tried to get over on the side of the tree. Now it just seems like it is just better on this side of the tree than going to the left side, even though this is, we talked about in the previous video, this is preemptive damage, where you can like build up a shield, and then this is obviously going to be more preemptive defensive unit, right? Versus this side's more reactive because it's healing through Elun's Favored, which is just going to heal you up to your max HP. But we have a 1-minute DR, and then we still have Barkskin as well with all of its additional amplifications over on the Druid side of the tree, and Barkskin's still a 1-minute cooldown, right? So like you have two 1-minute cooldowns that are very, very strong, and kind of give somewhat of the same benefits. They give you a little bit of damage, a little bit of reflectiveness because you have Brambles, which Brambles was just buffed as well, which just puts Bristling Fur as kind of a dead talent, to be honest. And so yeah, this is phenomenal. There are a couple other things that were changed as well. One of them is this ability over here after the Wildfire was increased drastically, where every 200 rage you spend causes a burst of restorative energy, healing allies within 12 yards for 63 whatever. That's obviously going to change per you because it's based off of attack power. However, this is a very strong heal. It's a very big heal, especially for Mythic Plus. But it's not controlled, right? Is the biggest problem with it. It's not controlled, and yeah, you can theoretically say that, okay, well, you can track how much rage you have on a counter, kind of like Pulsar or something like that, but you're a tank, so if you have to use rage to stay alive or use your abilities, then you're going to need to. So this would be really cool to like top up a group. However, it's going to be hard to get. You're going to have to sacrifice a good chunk of stuff in order to obtain it, which ultimately I think the payoff for just having a random heal going out all the time, like every 200 rage, is not going to be as worthwhile as just going with the full the build that's on the screen. But you never know. It could be something that like it's just worthwhile to have that kind of clutch heal every once in a while. It's probably very good at topping people up, but it wouldn't be the main source of stopping the group from dying. That would be obviously more so the healer, but this does give a little bit of utility for Guardian Druid. And if you were to jump in this, you have to take Survival of the Fittest, so you'd actually get a very short bark skin, as well as you get Survival Instincts to be on a shorter cooldown as well. And you can take the improved survival instincts with the reshuffle that we talked about, or you can take a vicious cycle. I opt into vicious cycle because now that they've increased the damage even further from Maul and Mangle, that vicious cycle is kind of free passive single target damage, ultimately what it comes out to, because you're going to Mangle 3 times and then you can get a big Maul out there, which is worth it, especially that amped up Maul, because they just buffed Maul by 40% now, and they buffed it up by an additional 50%, so 90% buff, and then this ability itself buffs it up by another 45%. So you're getting a lot of damage from just that one ability, which in single target is definitely worth it to press your Maul in that kind of fashion, 100%. And that's this initial build. Now, if we were to actually try to go over here, I did make a build for that as well. And you can kind of see what you have to give up, because you have to have 4 points out of the previous build in order to gain this, because we didn't have Gory Fur on the last build either. So you have to have 4 points, and the points that you lose Soul of the Forest. You're going to lose your Vicious Cycle, which obviously means you're not going to have this one up here either. You're going to lose your Berserk, and then also Circle Life and Death. And Circle and Life and Death, honestly, I think is one of the better talents for Guardian Druid, especially with the dot build that we are, right? Like your Moonfire is all dots, your Thrashes is all dot damage, besides the initial application of Thrash, right? So like you have a lot of dots, and Circle Life and Death is very strong for that. However, you could say that you're getting a lot of damage from just those just existing on targets, and that you want to go for more tanky build as well as group assisting build, right? Which would be this one. So like there is an option for this. I don't think that you're going to ultimately change that up probably, but it is an option now, which is a great thing. We have an option to get some group healing out there, and it could be very strong, like I said, to top up a group, or it could have some very clutch plays too. But you are losing a good chunk of damage because you're losing your haste when you're in Berserk. You're losing 25% faster dots all across. And then obviously your single target damage with Vicious Cycle, as well as Soul of the Forest, giving you more rage regeneration, but also Mangle dealing 25% more damage. So you're losing a lot of damage there to try to get a little bit tankier and some healing. if this wasn't tied behind Survival of the Fittest, that'd be really cool. Or if they just swapped the two, I think that would be really nice, because then you could actually try to play with one of the two of these talents. Same thing with Dream Sarnarius. If they moved it up, that'd be really cool. The other buffs, there's some other slight buffs that they did. Is Reinforced Fur here. It went from 4%, increases your armor by 4% to 8%, which is great. It does tie into Layer Main kind of nicely. Layer Main's still only a 10% chance, and I wish it was only 1 point. If it was 1 point, like, we'd be able to get a little bit more out of the builds. But they did buff Reinforced Fur, which is great. Just give us a little bit more armor, and you're stacking up so many armors because you have so much Rage with Blood Frenzy in this build, and then obviously reduce CDR Inkar, that you're getting 20 plus of them, and then all of those are increasing your armor by 8, so you even need less Iron Furs to be, armor capped, but we are beyond armor capped significantly. You're literally just spinning Iron Fur just to get the CDR on your Inkar and inside that window. And then the last thing is they buffed up Pulverize. They increased its damage that it deals to the target. They didn't increase not only did they increase Pulverize base damage, but then it also has the aura buff, so it did get a decent chunk of damage increase to it. We're not jumping over the side though, and Pulverize is kind of one of those things, like, it has maybe potential depending on a boss fight in Raid, but I don't think you'll ever take this inside Mythic Plus. And I think that it would probably warrant maybe not taking it inside in Raid, because you have other things that can, do this a little bit simpler and maybe a little bit more effective, possibly. But you never know. You could have some of these paired up in certain scenarios inside raids, depending on damage intake. And so on and so forth. But that's pretty much it. I wanted to quickly go over the changes. This is very strong. Testing it out, we are very tanky. We do a lot of damage. We do good single target damage. We're doing a massive amount of AoE damage, especially in big pulls. We can do bear pulls again, which bear pulls feel like bear pulls now. And now you have CDR reduction on Inkar. So if you do good bear pulls, and you can almost have the Inkar up like every minute and 20 seconds or so, less if you're really good at it, or a little bit more depending on how many targets and so on, how long they live. But if we can do bear pulls consistently with CDR on Inkar, as well as having 10% DR, Rage is a sleeper, Barkskin and Survival Instincts, Bear is looking to shape up as a pretty decent numbers tank. Is it going to be as exciting as some of the other tanks to play? Not really. It's still thrash spamming on cooldown, thrashing your mind out in Inkar, swiping, when you don't have anything to press, and then you're going to be laser beaming across with your Moonfires is ultimately what comes out with. Laser beaming with Moonfire is not something we did as much in previous expansions, but it is highly reliant on it now. And then, like at the start of the poll, you place out several of these, and then Galactic Guardian kind of just takes it over for you and keeps refreshing them and using its procs for you. But ultimately, phenomenal change, because it puts Bear back up in the running of tanks, right? Like, is ultimately what we needed to do. Is they just gave it damage to the spec, which is what it needed, because it solved several of the issues, as well as they just increased DRs, gave us better defensives, all in this one big change. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know what builds you guys can come up with. Let me know if you would actually try this healing build out. I prefer the other build, which is my main build of not having the healing one. I guess I'll just switch over to that real quick while we're talking. And I think that that's going to be, I would say the majority of people would probably do this build. Unless you're trying to really specifically tune into a specific type of damage profile. Like, you could go a little bit more single target damage if you wanted to try to. I don't think that the left side is going to be as valuable as the right side now, because of what they did with Rage of the Sleeper and with Soliciting Moonlight. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Give me your guys' opinions in the comments, and let me know if you guys are trying any different builds. I know on my last video, a couple people have mentioned things that they did, which obviously is going to change up just a tad now, because of the buffs that they've done. So let me know what you guys think about Bear, and it's great that we've got some changes before the patch came out, or before the expansion came out, which is going to happen relatively quickly, right? Thank you guys for watching, and I will be trying to stream a little bit more often this Mythic Plus weekend. So you guys can follow me over at twitch.tv/sageshifter, and we'll test out some Guardian as well as some Feral with the changes that they've done inside dungeons, and we'll have some fun with it. Druid in general is looking to be really good. I know Boomy got a little bit of a hit recently, but they're actually still doing really good in Mythic Plus. There's a lot of people that are doing really well in it. Um, so it's not all doomsday. And then Resto Druid is doing phenomenal in Mythic Plus right now. It's very, very strong. Druid in general is looking to be very, very good going into Dragonflight. But anyway, thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, bye bye.